Pretty much everyone knows that bleed is one of the most broken mechanics in Elden Ring. Even the most average of weapons can be turned into an absolute beast with bleed added to it, which is able to generate thousands of points of damage with quick successive hits and bleed build up. But how high can we really take this damage? And what is the most amount you can possibly deal? And what is the best build for this? Well, today I'm going to show you the best bleed build that you can make in Elden Ring that'll see you melting boss health bars in seconds. Now the main weapon we're going to be using in this build is the Gargoyle Twin Blade. These blades tear through enemies at lightning speed, applying bleed so fast that even the toughest bosses don't stand a chance. However, this is a build that requires 2 of these, so you are going to have to use New Game Plus and defeat the twin gargoyles twice. If you're new to Elden Ring and looking for more of a beginner bleed build, please let me know in the comments and I'll look into creating one. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you get this weapon is that the weapon doesn't actually have any bleed on it. So how are we going to get that insane amount of bleed out of these? Luckily for us, the weapon can be infused with any Ash of War, and the one that we're going to be using is the Seppuku Ash of War. We're going to be duplicating this at the blacksmith and applying this to both of our twin blades for maximum bleed build-up. Having 2 of these weapons equipped allows us to make use of the unique jump attack, which allows us to hit the target 4 to 5 times during the jump. So it's quite easy to see how we manage to do insane amounts of damage and keep creating bleed procs, which give us that satisfying drop in the boss's health bar. But now let's jump into the stats which you'll need to make this build as effective as possible. We're basing this build on a level 200 character, and starting off we're going to be with Vigor, which is going to be a recommended 50 for both the base game and the DLC, which will allow you to take some hits before dying. For Mind, we're leaving it at 17. We don't have a great need for Mind here, but this will allow us to cast our incantations and allow us to use our weapon skill. For Endurance, we're going for 40, as we are going to be needing quite a lot of stamina in order for us to keep jumping and attacking. Now our weapons scale mainly with strength, so therefore this will be our main stat. We're placing this at 80, which may seem a little bit high, but this will give us as much base damage as possible. For Dexterity, we are leaving this at 10, but bear in mind that we will need the dexterity buff from Millicent's Prosthesis in order for us to wield the weapons. We've gone for 25 points into Faith, which allows us to use our buffs for the build. These are going to be Golden Vow as always, which gives us the 15% damage boost and also damage negation. And moving on to our second incantation, which is going to be Flame Grant Me Strength, which provides a 20% boost to physical damage, and most importantly, it's going to give us that 11.1% increase to stamina regeneration, which is very needed for this build, as we're going to be spamming the hell out of the jump attacks. This is going to be your main attack, and quite simply we can buff these with many other items in the game, adding even more damage to the build. And finally we've gone for 50 points into Arcane, which will increase our chances of getting any bleed procs on the enemies. And if you do have any spare points, I would recommend putting them into Arcane. Of course, you can never have enough bleed build up. But of course, no build is complete without the talismans that take our damage to the next level, and I use the following on this build. Because we are running into a bleed build, we must go with the following. For first, we've gone for the Lords of Blood Exaltation, which boosts our attack power by 20% when blood loss occurs in the vicinity, and with this build, that is going to be happening a lot, so this talisman is a must. And next up, when we're going to be using our jumping attacks, we're going to be doing many attacks in quick succession. So I would go with the Millicent's Prosthesis, which is going to be so useful as it boosts our attack power with successive attacks, and we can stack this with our next talisman, which is the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which again boosts the attack power of successive attacks even further. If you don't have this talisman, then I would recommend to use a slightly lesser version, which is the Winged Sword Insignia, but this will still work great. As mentioned many times before, we are mainly going to be using the jump attack with this build, and to boost this we can run the Claw Talisman, which boosts the attack power by 15% when attacking an enemy using a jump attack. It's important to note that these talismans can be swapped out if you feel more comfortable using any others. But either way, no matter what you choose, the Flask of Wondrous Physick won't change, as we're going to be running the Thorny Crack tier, which boosts the attack power of successive attacks yet again, and also pairing this with the Blood Sucking Crack tier, which will boost your damage but comes at the cost of receiving constant damage, which can be quite annoying during some fights. But if you feel this is so annoying that you have to swap it out for another one I'd recommend is the Opaline Hard tier, which boosts damage negation. By now, you already have a crazy looking build which is able to deal a crazy amount of damage. But believe it or not, there is a way to make this build even better. We're going to be able to boost our damage even further with the use of our armor set, and for this, we're going with the Gravebird's Black Gale armor, which boosts our damage from jump attacks by 10%, and it's important to know that this does stack with the buff from the Claw Talisman. And as this is a bleed build, we're going with the White Mask, which will increase our attack power by 10% for 20 seconds when blood loss has been inflicted on the enemy or ourselves. So we'll be getting this straight away once we use Seppuku at the start of the fight. Again, this buff stacks with the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, allowing for maximum bleed damage. This is a must-have in any bleed build. And finally, we're going with 2 pieces of the Rakshasa armor set, which provides us with 2% increase to damage per piece, so in this instance a 4% increase to our damage. And with all of those buffs combined, including the weapons themselves, the talismans, the armor, the incantations, the highest attack rating I obtained was not far off 2000 attack power. Imagine that with every successful hit, so essentially with everything combined we're looking at an attack power rating of 2000 damage with every single hit. And considering with our jump attacks we're going to be hitting 4 to 5 hits per jump, you can expect a ton of damage. This is before we even take into account any bleed procs. And of course you can expect this is going to be happening a lot. So yeah, if you're looking for the best bleed weapon in the game just to humiliate bosses, then this is the build for you. With the right setup, these weapons can destroy even the toughest foes in just a few hits. There are still so many weapons in Elden Ring which I personally haven't tried, and I was shocked when I picked these up and had so much fun with this build. I find it amazing that this game has been out for years, and I'm still discovering new things, and also the ability to try different builds is just simply amazing. Hopefully this video helps you out and shows you the true power of bleed in Elden Ring. If you found this helpful, enjoyable and want to see more builds, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, as this helps me out a lot, and that way you won't miss out on any new crazy build in Elden Ring. Catch you in the next one.